I can say I've been hot. It's been hot here. It's been hot. Needless to say, there's no doubt.
Bryan, just looking at the offensive philosophy, are you guys pretty, wide open on what you want to run, or are you married to one philosophy?
Well, I think I'll say this. I think every coach has to do a good job of looking at one personnel and what they do well, and kind of find the focus and kind of get good at something. I think it's kind of hard, especially nowadays, to get pinpointed into just saying, hey, this is our style and this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. I mean, just because if you look at just hypothetically, if you say, you're one of the top 5 playmakers you have are 3 receivers, then why would you take one of those guys off the game if philosophically you play with just 2? If that makes sense, what I'm saying. So I mean, I think you just got to kind of look at that. And kind of let those guys kind of dictate on who's going to be out there the most for you, and then just kind of go from there, because those are the guys that give you the best chance to win games.
Will your style change depending on who's quarterbacking the team?
Not so much. I think the grand thing about it, I think all those guys that are competing right now, man, I mean, they have things in common. Obviously, they have things that make them different too, but all of those guys can go in there and operate what kind of what we like to do in all facets of the offense.
Yesterday we saw Dawkins and Charleston in with the first team. Was that just the way the rotation worked, or have those guys made a jump?
Well, I think everybody's done a good job of making the jump. Right now, it's just where the rotation is. You like to kind of get guys matched up with different quarterbacks, so they're not just always kind of getting timing with one guy. So when they do happen to get in there rotation-wise, that doesn't throw that part of it off.
Do those 2 guys look like they'll be in your regular rotation somewhere this year?
If everything keeps progressing, I think those 2 have a good chance. Yeah.
Debo and Bryan, are you just being easy with them as they come back from the hamstring?
I think you got to be very, very careful with hamstrings. Yeah. It's one of those things that obviously Debo last year, I mean, he was out all year with the hamstring. Just because if you're not managing it the right way and you put him out there too fast, and then that's when you get the big boy where you're out 2-3 months. So just trying to kind of prevent that and just gain strength and flexibility and everything else. But those guys are progressing really, really well. They did. They did everything yesterday. So I mean, just kind of keep those guys coming on as well.
What kind of receiver can you see Debo being when he stays healthy?
Debo has a wide skill set. He's a guy that's I mean, he's hard to guard in the sense of, I mean, he plays with a lot of strength, very quick, good hands. He can make those traffic catches, which is essential in this league, and especially with how good DBs are, but also tracks the ball very well. Does a good job after he has the ball in his hand. So I mean, I think he's unique in that sense, just because he can kind of do a lot of things across the board. So to kind of pinpoint him down into what just saying who is he? I mean, he's Debo.
How is Lorenzo progressing at receiver?
He's doing better. The thing about that, I mean, it's a little bit different. A lot of people see a great athlete a lot of times and think that, hey man, he could just be a receiver, and in the sense of he's looked great out there and he's made some plays, but being a receiver is arguably you're going up against the other team's best athletes as well as at DB. So, and that's man to man every down. So he's doing well. Obviously it's a new form. The learning curve is very steep, but it's very short. So he has to make sure that every single day he's gaining ground in that aspect. So he's doing okay.
Do you envision him as somebody who's in your regular receiver rotation, or somebody you kind of use in spot?
I think right now that remains to be seen. I think it's really, really early to say one way or the other, but I think he's doing well. He's doing well.
Is he a guy that you expect to get a lot of snaps tomorrow in the scrimmage?
Oh yeah, well,
everybody
will, yeah.
Bryan, especially when you are kind of working in a new offense, find out what you have, how important is it to have a known commodity and kicker? So if it happens during the game, you have a guy who you can trust to go out there and hit.
I tell you what, man, they're extremely important. They're extremely important, and it doesn't show up that you don't have one until you don't have one. So those guys, obviously, man, just the whole kicking game in general is so important just to any successful team. I mean, I guarantee, and I don't know this for a fact, but if you look back at who's been really good in our conference, Over the past few years, I guarantee their kicking game or stat wise in the kicking game, they did really good too. So I think it goes one end, not just in the specialist program or not just in the specialist area, but just in your team in general. Having everybody buying in and doing a good job on special teams.
How far will tomorrow's scrimmage go towards defining starting skill position roles?
I think every practice is just as important as tomorrow's scrimmage. I think tomorrow's scrimmage kind of goes into it just because it's another part of it. You're not out there on the field with the guys. You're not, remind them of this. You're not reminding them of that. Before and after each snap, you kind of just get a chance to send them out there and say, hey, go do it. So obviously, I think that's the most realistic, the most realistic you can get to an actual game and that aspect of it. So I think I think all of it goes into the evaluation of every player.
With so many freshman wide receivers, is there a certain number that you feel comfortable with having to be ready at the start of the season?
Comfortable with? Well, I'll say the plan is to get them all ready to play. So, every one of them that we brought in, I'm getting ready to play for us. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Will you scrimmage Debo and Bryan full go
Yeah,
tomorrow?
everybody's going tomorrow.
Because you're so young at receiver when you play Vanderbilt, are you expecting them defensively to just line up on the line of scrimmage and really challenge those guys from the get-go?
Well, I think when you look at Vandy, man, they're a veteran bunch. Just when specifically on defense. So those guys have played a bunch of ball. Those guys have seen the best that this league has had to offer and played against it. So I would expect those guys to do what they do well. Those guys do a great job of covering and getting after the quarterback and mixing up fronts and doing things like that. So I wouldn't expect anything different. Especially versus us, I would.
Bryan, do you have a number as to how many guys you want your game day receiver rotation?
Ideally, you want to keep that number around 7 or 8. Around 7 or 8 is what you try to do. Because you like guys getting into the game, getting into the flow of the game, being able to play, being able to kind of work through a lot of different situations to feel comfortable enough out there to make plays. So I think in order to do that, you can't have too many, but you want to have enough where you're keeping people fresh. And constantly allowing yourself to put pressure on defenses by playing fast.
Is Jamari still running one at the slot receiver?
Yes, he is.
Who's he working with there at that position?
So our slots can be interchangeable, but right now he still is. But it's a number of guys. Some of the freshmen are. Patrick Belton's there. Debo knows the slot real well. So yeah, it's kind of interchangeable.
How is he doing? Because he's another guy that moved over from. He's flipped back and forth positions
Sure.
the last couple of years.
Sure.
Go from defensive back.
Right. Jamar, he's had a really good camp. He's had a really good camp. Worked extremely hard. I think he's excited just to have a home right now, and where he's able to hang his hat on just learning how to do one particular position. And so he's done extremely well. He's worked extremely hard. He's in great shape, and he takes pride in getting the small details down. So anytime you have that, those guys all tend to work themselves into being pretty good.